So your coffee this month is from Finca El Salvador, which is a farm in El Salvador, and it's a 48-hour natural Pacamara. So I'm going to get Nick to explain a little bit more about the farm, the process, what does 48-hour natural even mean?
I think there's heaps of interesting things about this coffee. The farm itself, the variety, and the process, right? So I guess the farm itself is Finca El Salvador, as you said, which is owned and recently inherited by a guy called Rodolfo Batlle, Ruffatti, who is a 5th generation Salvadorian producer who just recently took over the full farm operation from his dad. Ruffatti family are pretty prolific in the coffee world in El Salvador. So there's a lot of history in the farm actually, and it's an astonishing place. It's on the Cerro Aguila volcano, which means Hell of the Eagle. It's a really amazing farm, and it really is like a lesson in, I guess, altitude topography. As you walk up the farm, you can see the kind of change in the cultivars and how they flourish with the native windbreakers all spread across the farm as well.
So what's the altitude of this farm, do you know?
It goes from like 1600 up to about 2100, although I don't know if they're growing coffee up there.
So reasonably high for El Salvador? Or
yeah, it is pretty high. And from the, and it's a beautiful view because you can see Honduras and Guatemala, and I think Nicaragua as well, because they all kind of compound on one point.
Nice.
Yeah. So Pacamara, if you don't know, is the unfinished hybrid project of the Pacas and the Malaga, which was conducted by ISIC, which was the really advanced institute of coffee technology in El Salvador around the 1950s. A lot's happened since then because of they had a civil war and blah blah blah.
So it's a man-made hybrid of two Arabica sub-varietals, essentially.
Correct. But the point was that they never finished the generational program, so they started planting them in the wild about 5 generations in, where it's supposed to be about 7 to stabilize. So on some, and I assume actually, I'm guessing this, but I assume this is why it's such an inconsistent and interesting varietal, right?
Yeah.
Inconsistent is probably a mean word, but it's just super, it evolves a lot. But also I've seen Pacamara trees that are literally half Pacas, half Malaga.
Oh wow.
Yeah, really interesting, right? And they're very big beans, so elephant beans, Malaga are huge.
You'll see how big they are, they're pretty large.
Yeah, right on. And then the process, good question. So Rodolfo is a processing genius. As you roast his coffee, and they're always so uniform, right? The Pacamara, I think, personally, and most people would agree, favour natural processes because they need a bit of help to kind of promote sweetness above savouriness.
Yeah.
A lot of washed Pacamaras can be quite savoury. When you find a good one, a good washed Pacamara, they're exceptional. It's just quite hard to achieve for whatever reason. And the 48-hour is the kind of, the 48 refers to the initial anaerobic ferment, which is where the full cherry, not pulped, is fermented for 48 hours in a contained anaerobic environment. So it's just shut off from oxygen.
So anaerobic, without oxygen.
Yeah, and then it's transferred to the drying beds at the mill, where I think it's probably about 20 days drying at that altitude. So that combination of like really intensified anaerobic ferment, which would be mostly responsible for the really complex acidity, and then the sweetness would come later with the
drying.
full.
So this coffee happens to be the sponsor coffee for the English AeroPress Championship, which is happening probably pretty much at the same time you get your coffee. So it only seems fitting that I'm going to brew it on an AeroPress. So I'm going to crack on with that so we can drink some. But we've bought from Rodolfo for years and years now, right?
Yep, ever since the beginning of assembly, 2015. We were actually his first European customer. Yep, long story. So we've had a great buying relationship and have explored a lot of regions in El Salvador together, actually. But now with we're kind of combining our efforts into Finca El Salvador. El Salvador is a really interesting place for more than one reason when it comes to coffee. The more interesting stuff to me is the kind of political history, right? So El Salvador used to be the 5th largest producing nation in the world, which is astonishing if you understand its size and context to Brazil.
Yeah, it's really small compared to them.
Yeah, and they had these really efficient production mechanisms, lots of mills. So the typical kind of narrative now when you travel the country is quite a sad one, because you come across all of these huge abandoned mills that are run, and even if they are not abandoned, they're running at like really low capacity, and you can kind of get a sense for how broken things are. And that's got to do with many, like the Civil War and the land reforms in the 80s was the big factor there. And then obviously the coffee market changed a lot in the 90s with when the ICO broke up, right?
Mm.
Yum.
So we're gonna get some coffee.
Mm.
Hopefully no AeroPress competitors see this before before the competition.
The winning recipe, huh?
We'll see. We'll see.
Oh man, that smells good. Okay, so the best thing about natural Pacamaras when they're done well is that, okay, I used to call it Neapolitan ice cream. You know the red one, the red.
That's strawberry,
to it?
yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's like that. We actually used to have a coffee from another producer that we got through Rodolfo called Don Nacho. Man, it was like this. But so this is kind of in a similar vein, although this one is far heavier on what you said before. It's less Neapolitan, more Turkish Delight and Rose, which is full on.
Because Neapolitan's strawberry white, strawberry, vanilla, and chocolate.
Yeah.
Which I can probably see this in this coffee too, like definite red fruit, strawberry, raspberry. Definite chocolate, and then heaps of Turkish Delight, heaps of rose.
And peach.
Really sweet. Actually pretty good AeroPress. I'm
Yeah, it's
surprised
yum.
at myself.
Poorly processed Pacamaras quickly start tasting like onion. So,
This does not taste like onion. Do we end on this could taste like onions?
Yeah, like Shrek. What is that thing? Ogres are like onion. Pacamaras.
Pacamaras are like onions.
Are not like onion. No, this is delicious. It's too late on it. What day is it? Tuesday.
I mean,
Cheers.